Hey guys, what's up? It's Zola, and today I'm going to be talking about one thing and one thing only, and that thing today is 2D tracks and 3D tracks and the ways excuse me, the ways in which you can change a 3D track to a 2D track and why you would want to do that. So here I have our shot from a couple lessons ago when we did the 3D track, and I have this boat, right? And what I've done with this boat is I've taken a point on the 3D track, so I've gone to my 3D tracker, found a null for like this foreground area here, made this little null, and then stuck my 3D boat. As you can see, it's 3D, and I've pick whipped it to the position here, and then I've just removed it from parenting. So what I've done is I'm going to hide these two because they're kind of confusing. So I've basically found the point on the 3D track and placed my boat there. Now this one in the background works pretty well, like we saw, because I think mainly because it's so far away and it's small, and by here things are pretty flat in terms of, as I explained, the further back you go in 3D space, the flatter things are. So, which is why in films, if you look at the very, very far cities and backgrounds that you have in films, they are always just massive paintings, because you can see here there's no point in this being 3D because essentially it's moving so little in terms of it's so flat compared to us that you're never going to see anything more than a painting here. Even these clouds here you would probably get away with just a painting of them. It's only the ones at here, and again in this shot not so much. Like you could probably get away with 2D clouds for the whole thing because there's so little spin, because this is pretty much a flat pan move. So for a lot of shots like this, and for every shot in a Hollywood movie, just have a look next time you're watching and you'll see the backgrounds are always just basically massive matte paintings. But for the stuff in the foreground, a bit trickier. So what I've done is place this boat on the 3D track, and let's see how that looks. As you can see here, it looks kind of alright, but there's something not quite right. It's sliding slightly. If you look at it versus the waves underneath, you can see, even though it feels like pretty good, there's something wrong with this. And that is because the camera the camera is not perfect and it's kind of moving forward. If we have a look in our custom view at our camera, which is here, you'll see the camera is actually kind of moving forwards as well. There you go. So it's moving forwards, and even though it's moving forwards in a straight line, if we come back to our footage here, active camera, you know, I mean, yes, we are moving forward ever so slightly. Like if you try and pick out some of these points here, you'll see, yes, we are moving forwards ever so slightly. But the problem with this is it's flat, right? So the first thing we can do is, if we do, I believe it's Control Shift O, no, wrong, always get Control Alt O, you can do orient towards camera. What this will do is always point, it will kind of like always point your layer at the camera. So as I think this should show up in custom view. So if we look here, so you can see here, basically our layer is slowly spinning itself towards where the camera is, so that it always looks flat. So that can kind of help. So if we have a look again in our shot, let's have a look now, and you know, that's kind of helping slightly, but there's still something not quite right. So the one thing I've done here is I've done a 2D track and put this boat on a 2D track. So the 2D track is like I showed you yesterday, where you find a point in the scene, and we can see in this shot the 2D track is actually a lot better. I mean, if I went to the trouble of actually trying to make this like it sat in the scene, so if I went and got like my mask tool and, you know, like tried to somewhat mask off the bottom of the boat just to make it look like it was somewhat at least sat on the sea, and you know, if I had a bit of footage of, maybe let's just make a solid, make it like kind of like off blue, and I'm going to shift pick whip it to our boat, which is here, and then I'm going to scale this up slightly. I'll just make it a bit bigger, in fact. So if I do that, and then what I'm going to do is put it beneath our boat, and then I'm just going to mask off like a small area around here, and this is going to kind of be like the foam, I guess. And you know, I could go to the trouble of animating this, but it's not kind of really what I'm here to show you, so I'm not going to get too precious about it. Let's just say that you know, if we actually watch this back now, that looks a lot more solid than the other thing we've got. Obviously it's still a flat boat, and obviously the boat is like quite comical in terms of like its vector, and you know, it's not a real boat. If I got a picture of a real boat, that would look a lot better. And there's still things we could do in color correction. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you're trying to comp something in is always like get your curves and try and match the brightness. So probably bring the whites down somewhat, and maybe something like that, and then like go into the color channels and just try and balance those slightly better. Maybe make it a bit more, bit of blue, and like remove some reds. But anyway, you know, let's just assume that kind of like feels like it sits. How did I do this? How did I get a 2D track? Because obviously it's nightmare, because all the little waves are changing, and there's no way that I could get a tracker to track part of this. Well, the good thing is that there's an expression, and before you go running for the hills again, this expression is a bit more trickier than all the other ones I've shown you, but it's one I have written down in my phone. And basically if you go around and you have it written down somewhere and you have access to it, then it's just a case of pasting it in. So what I did was I got the 3D track, which is here on this little null, and I've made a 2D null, which is here. Now as you can see here, when I play this back, they're moving in exactly the same space. Difference being, this is a 2D layer, as you can see here, so it's not affected by the camera, and this is a 3D track. So what this layer is actually doing is following the 3D track, but changing it into 2D, because as you can see here, it's not being affected by my camera and my scene, which means I can do stuff with it independently of this lateral movement that we've got going on in the camera. So how did I do this? Well, if I come down into here, I've got to transform, look at position, we can see this is red, which means there's an expression. If I twirl this down, here is my expression. So I'm going to do this from scratch just to show you guys how that's done. So I'm going to come to layer, new null object, and the next lesson tomorrow will be about null objects, even though it's probably not one that you're going to think, oh, I'm going to click that, I'm going to watch it, it's going to be exciting. It's probably the most useful, one of the most useful time-saving lessons. These things are invaluable, and there's so much you can do with them. So I do implore you to watch that when I do it tomorrow. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call this 2D track. And what we have here is, I'm just going to copy this, and then I'll explain it as I'm copying it. So we're going to come to position, we're going to hit Alt to make a position, and I'm just going to paste that in and click off. Okay, so here we have it, and we can see this is the one, and if we select our 3D track, we'll see that these two should line up, but again this one's 2D. So what's this doing? So T, here we're defining a variable, and so what I did was essentially, if I delete that, I went T, and then with the icon still in here, I just literally selected the 3D track. Let's see if I can do that properly. Sometimes this is really fiddly. Let's try again. I'm not sure, maybe it's because this is open. Yep. Basically what you can do is pick whip, usually. There we go. Okay, I'm not sure why it wasn't working. And so this comp layer means that it's going to look in thisComp, and then the layer it's looking for is 3D track, because that's what we've called it, and then you have to put semicolon at the end of every sentence, and then T is again this parameter ToComp, which is it's going to look at this comp only, and then it's going to place T, which is again this, on the anchor point of our 3D track. So I appear to have slightly bollocksed up my expression, so I'm going to just copy it over again, paste, done. And again, I'll put this in the description of the video, so you can just copy and paste it. But essentially, thisComp.layer will always be there, and then the thing that will go between these is the name of your layer. So if this layer was called Tony, you know, you would have to name this Tony, and you can see that it's updating. And then that's it, you should be good to go. So if we have a look, our 2D track is good to go, and then only thing I've done is got my little ship, which is here. Where is it? Yep, that's my ship. And then I've just shift pick whipped it to my 2D track, and then there we go. So now my boat is just parented to this null, which means it's a 2D layer. And if we compare the 3D and the 2D, so if we come into here on the first frame, you'll see I've tried to line them up at least laterally, and you can see by the end of the this shot, the pink boat has actually scaled up because it's moved forward in 3D space, which is why it feels like it's drifted, whereas our 2D one is kind of still constant. And in this case, you know, not always will a 2D track be better than a 3D track, but at least you know now how you can change a 2D track to 3D track. So it's pretty, I know I've kind of gone over a lot, but the bottom line is make a new null, paste in the expression and the position parameters, pick whip it to the 3D track, and you're done. Job done, finished. And then after that you can just shift pick whip your 2D layers to your 2D track, and you should be good to go. So there you go, that's how to get a 2D track from a 3D track. See you next time.